Hello and welcome to the Hard Sell, the programme where the stick rattles back. Is my timing good or is my timing great? I had planned since before Christmas for this episode to be yet another anti-privatization rant, and reality duly provides a potent illustration by having Carillon collapse and illustrate the inherent shit and awfulness of privatization for its own sake in big, bold, double-page spreads by Brian Hitch. Thanks, Carillon. Here's another privatizational not brand X. And today we're selling water.
Are you gonna sink or swim? From coast to coast, there's more than you bargained for. Are you gonna lose or win?
Water, even more than the other utilities brought into the private sector in the 80s, like gas and electricity, is of vital importance to life itself. It's a necessity, and therefore literally priceless. Which naturally didn't stop the government from selling it off, which they finally got round to doing in late 1989. Just as with the gas before it and electricity after, the agency they hired had somehow to sell it to us as something good, which in this case was trickier than ever. Don't get me wrong, the old public sector local water boards were none too clever themselves, especially my one, South West Water.
It took 3 weeks in the summer of 1988 before the old South West Water Authority admitted their mistake. It's taken considerably longer to find what caused the death of one of its consumers, Carol Cross. She died in 2004, 16 years after 20 tons of toxic aluminium sulfate was accidentally poured into the water supply.
But none of the things that were wrong with them, high water bills, poor service, even occasionally poisoning entire towns out of sheer incompetence, were inherent to their status as a nationalised industry, or could be solved by changing that status. And that's not just militant tendency speechifying courtesy of Starling Q Livingstone over here. The neoliberals proved that premise true by going ahead and privatising anyway, and causing exactly that to happen. Water bills straight out of some far-left dystopian satire pamphlet from 1983 or so, and a service that's either non-existent or else gives the impression that the entire company recently took a cinder block to their collective heads. Admittedly, there have been slightly fewer cases of mass poisoning out of sheer incompetence, but it feels like luck. And no other options to switch to, which is the real elephant in the room when it comes to water privatisation. Usually when a utility is privatised, there's lots of justifying talk about competition, as if it's inherently a good thing. But with the gas and electrics, at least it was true, inasmuch as it was a thing that was happening. The pipes and wires might by necessity be owned and maintained by just one or two companies in any given local area, but there were and are plenty of companies supplying the gas and generating the electricity that the customer can choose from and switch between at any given moment. But water doesn't work that way. There's only ever been the same amount of water on Earth for billions of years, give or take the odd particle that manages to escape into the universe. You don't generate more, you just keep track of and distribute it. And just like the gas and electrics, there's only one set of pipes. You can't switch water suppliers. Which means they can charge you whatever the hell they want. What are you going to do, buy 100 gallons of Evian a day? And this case of affairs was largely predictable at the time as well. So there was a big task facing the agency or agencies employed to produce this campaign by the Department of the Environment through the Central Office of Information, because you can never have too many middlemen. The basic process for this sort of thing was largely set by now after the sales of British Gas, Steel and BP. The first thing to do was an awareness campaign.
11 million dirty cars every month. 1,700 million gallons of industrial waste every week. 8 million grimy men every day. Some 500,000 loads of dirty washing every hour and around 140,000 flushes every minute. The water we all use has to be collected and disposed of, and sometimes goes through as many as 5 separate cleaning processes. Who takes dirty water off your hands? We do. The 10 water and sewage businesses of England and Wales.
The water boards don't generally advertise much unless they had good reason. They don't need to. Like I said, where else are you going to go? Give us your money and piss off. The customers were essentially captives. So obviously when a series of adverts started appearing that calmly explained what it was they actually did, usually via metaphor and occasionally through dance, the viewer might very well have considered that something was up. The first wave, no pun intended, of water awareness ads had a slightly bigger budget than the near contemporaneous ones for British Steel, and tended to centre around whimsical metaphors, often painstakingly made from practical effects, reminiscent of Storm Thorgerson on Powerful Uppers.
More than 2,000 million gallons of water are used and disposed of every day. It takes over 250,000 miles of piping to deliver and collect. You can't see them, of course. They're part of the vast network of underground water services. We've even hidden some of our reservoirs below ground. But we didn't stop there. Last year we spent over £1 billion improving the system. Right now we're building water mains big enough to drive a car through. And you can't see them either, because we're tunnelling hundreds of feet underground. So whoever we supply can be sure that every time they turn on the tap, every time they flush, there's water. The 10 water and sewage businesses of England and Wales.
Either that, or Ripley's Believe It or Not style fascinating facts.
If water was delivered to the door like milk, an average family would need 850 pints a day. That's an entire milk float load per family, per day.
Impressive, no? No, really, it is. Be impressed, you ungrateful bastards. It almost feels like a category error in the middle of a commercial break, though. It's not really selling anything, or at least not something you weren't going to get anyway by default. It's just telling you an interesting fact about something you might otherwise take for granted, and perhaps inviting you to be grateful without ever saying it out loud. Because what it's really doing is planting the idea of the waterboard in your head in time for the big sell-off.
We've told you a lot about water already. Like to know what improvements we've made recently?
Yeah.
To improve the quality of water, we've started installing activated carbon filters to extract more impurities than ever before. To help make our rivers cleaner, we've constructed interceptor sewers along 12 of the most industrialized. We're inserting tough plastic linings into pipes to renew them without digging them up. We're using remote electronic detectors to see faults as soon as they occur. All in all, over the past 5 years, we've spent over £4,000 million updating the system.
How much?
4,000 million. There's more to do, but we've done a lot already. The 10 water and sewage businesses of England and Wales.
Once those had bedded down, it was time to unleash the epic, resolutely straight-faced, pivotal awareness ad. It was called Sky to Tap, and in a campaign with a total spend in excess of 20 million quid, this accounted for a solid million of them. And you can see them all on screen over the course of this minute and a half. Stage 1 was whimsy, Stage 2 was feverish evangelising.
Every hour, every day, every dam, every one of our 5,000 reservoirs. Every pound of the billions we have invested. Every pump. Every mile of the 140,000 miles of pipe. Every one of the 2,000 million gallons a day to every factory, every office, every home we supply means that you can be sure that every time you turn on the tap, there's water. The 10 water and sewage businesses of England and Wales.
And please remember to salute your water board at all times. Sundry pieces of material from this video were also woven together for bespoke versions targeted at specific regions in a bid to inspire a bit of local brand loyalty among the investing proles. I've shown a one from my region before with the voice of Jeremy Brett and this hilarious bit of redubbing.
Looks like more rain on the way.
It's more complicated than that.
Southwest Water. It's more of a business than you think.
In Grenadaland, perhaps surprisingly since they created him, they didn't get Sherlock's voice, but they did get an annoying song.
Thanks to us, there'll be showers in Blackburn. It's pouring in Cheshire, and there's even the odd spot in
Penrith, Borrowdale, Ambleside, Manchester, Liverpool, Preston, Macclesfield and Rayno, even Rayno, Morecambe and Blackpool.
Wherever you are, whatever you need, around 7 million people in the Northwest rely on us every day. Northwest Water, clearly for you.
Once everyone was fully woke to the business of water and sewerage, it was time to get down to the nitty and also gritty. Stage 3, the shares themselves. A nice, catchy, puntastic slogan was drawn up. You could be an H2 owner. The first advert to carry it was a preview, which made clever use of water's other states of matter, i.e. ice and vapour, channeling their ephemerality, as opposed to the basic permanence of water itself, to build anticipation of all things.
Soon, the 10 water and sewage businesses of England and Wales will be offered for sale. You can apply for shares in your local company, or any of the others. Register now, and incentives could be yours. But the opportunity won't last forever. To register for a prospectus, call 0272 272 272.
Note the repeated motif on the soundtrack, played on various shades of synthesizer pad. You'll also have heard it whistled by the water delivery men in a desperate attempt to make themselves forget the abject futility of their task. The advertisers were very lucky in this instance that there was an entire and very famous suite of classical music all about the subject of their adverts, and they proceeded to push that luck to the limit as the campaign really went into overdrive. The central marquee ad of the H2 owner campaign has appeared here before, of course, and it was this one.
message is on its way. You could be an H2 owner. To register for a prospectus for the sale of shares in South West, Wessex and the other water and sewage businesses of England and Wales, call 0272 272 272.
It's basically, and I may have said this before, a celebration of water as a platonic ideal, albeit a platonic ideal with the ability to hum to itself. The business end is alluded to at the start. Its utility to the humdrum farting working classes this is ostensibly aimed at is in the middle. And then finally there's a big celebratory ending for you to clap along to, so you're too distracted to pay attention to the Thomas Pynchon novel of small print.
Call 0272 272 272.
With this as the centerpiece, establishing the slogan and aesthetic, the screen was soon lousy, with seemingly random spin-offs promoting specific aspects of the share offer or simply underlining that ubiquitous phone number in blood. 0272 272 272. One of the easiest phone numbers in the world to remember, which is probably why it was used for nigh on a decade as the number to ring to get more information on whatever it was the government was selling off today. The same number had been used when they sold British Gas, British Steel, British Telecom and BP, and would be used again for both halves of the electrics, and BT. Again, because it was sold off in thirds.
Register now for a prospectus in the water share offers, and you could get bonus shares.
Well, that's a symbol of success you wouldn't see in this day and age. The boss man had, and still has, his suit and tie, and usually in this country a bowler hat as well. And that iconography is still prevalent, of course, mostly because clothes don't give you cancer. You don't any longer see him with a fat cigar in its producer's chops, however, much less have the symbol reduced to merely the cigar alone, as if the cancer stick is universally understood to mean this guy is superior to you fiscally and probably also as a matter of objective reality. Incidentally, are you sick of this music yet?
Call 0272 272 272.
Jolly good, because some of these are centred around it.
It's not too late to reserve a prospectus for the water share offers. All you need do is get to a telephone.
So, what the hell is wrong with these people? The ghost of Penelope Keith mentions that the water share off has a deadline and they all panic like it's the eve of tax day. Nothing about this entire situation warrants this kind of excitement, anticipation or anxiety. Of course, the idea is to suggest that this wildly exaggerated behaviour is in fact only slightly exaggerated. And the opportunity to buy shares in one of the 10 modern well, is bloody exciting, actually. Normalizing a notion through careful use of exaggeration, a useful propaganda technique. I'm not saying the advertisers were doing this consciously, it's just a technique of advertising. Still not sick of the music?
You too could be an H2 owner.
Good. Here's Jörg Frederick Handel himself. I say Handel, I mean Ian McNeice. It doesn't actually look an awful lot like Handel aside from the double chin. The late Glenn Shaddix would have been a closer match. Credit where it's due, it is quite impressive how they managed to tie these scenarios in with the product, if that's the right word for it.
To register for a prospectus in the water-share offers, call 0272 272 272.
Oh my god, I'm so sick of this music. It's just getting more and more obscure. Mr. Toad. Toads live near water. Water. Da 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 da. We want this campaign over with just as much as you do at this point.
Remember, completed applications for the water share offers must be received by 10 a.m. on the 6th of December. So if you want to apply, hop to it.
He's a toad. Toads don't hop. And it's prospecti.
Crying over you, crying over you.
You know, at this point I'm just glad to have a musical soundtrack not based around the water music. Even if this song has long since been ruined forever by John Sullivan and Philip Pope. That episode hadn't happened yet, it's fine.
From this moment on, I'll be crying, crying.
It's no good turning on the waterworks after November 15th. Register by then, or you'll miss out on the extras you could get if you become an H2 owner.
Really though, it's like someone came up with an extensive list of puns and imagery related to water that they could use for this campaign, and the person they handed it into somehow came away with the impression that they absolutely must use all of them. No wonder when they sold off the electrics a year later they stuck with the same basic motif throughout the campaign. Stupid though it was.
It was a graveyard smash. I ran off like a flash.
To register for incentives and a prospectus in the watershare offers, call 0272 272 272, no later than November 15th.
And then it was all over. It was too late. You'd missed your chance. Your chance to buy a fraction of interest in something that, and here's the punchline for you, you already owned in the first place. It was paid for out of your water bills and income tax. Well, poll tax at this point. You were already an H2 owner. What you were being sold was not a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get a piece of a pie you might otherwise never have got your hands on, but a couple of crumbs of a pie that you had been eating until the government snatched it off your plate and handed it to all its friends. Roughly speaking. Remember that the value of shares can go down as well as up.